What do you do when your talents go unnoticed? When your boss expects more but gives you less? Well, Gen Z has found its answer. But here's the twist. It's not quitting the job, it's something else. And it's quietly shaking the system from the inside out. In this video, we'll dive into how exactly one of the toughest and strongest labor forces of the world is crumbling and falling apart. Why is Britain, once celebrated for its hardworking spirit, now facing a quiet mental health meltdown? The story starts with a slow creep, but it's roaring now. In recent times, about 2/3 of UK workers have felt burnt out, exhausted before the day even begins, and dreading each morning. That's millions of people dragging through their jobs day after day. It's not just being tired, though that's where it gets serious. Most people report feeling stressed multiple times a week, and many feel it every single day. It's like living with a heavy cloud that never lifts, and trust doesn't help. Less than half of young workers feel safe telling their boss how bad they feel. That's fear, not workplaces supporting them. So, what happens to people who feel too tired to even show up in their minds? Young workers from 18 to 24 are in particular trouble. Many of them now report burnout rates far above older colleagues, and some surveys show the youngest group struggles twice as much. It feels unfair, it feels unsustainable, it feels wrong, and yet it keeps climbing. And as you can see, a recent survey by CIPHR shows just how common stress really is. 79% of British adults say they feel stressed at least once a month. But it's hitting young people, Gen Z, the hardest. Nearly 9 out of 10 people aged 18 to 24 feel stressed every month. So if people are ready to quit, why are so many still staying? The causes stack up: rising living costs, unpaid overtime, constant deadlines, and lean staffing. Imagine working extra hours just to pay rent while your energy drains. When personal time is swallowed by work demands, burnout begins to root. On a national level, the burnout ripple is loud. It's estimated that mental health issues linked to work now cost Britons tens of billions of pounds every year in lost productivity and absenteeism. But these numbers only tell part of the story. The human cost, feelings of isolation, fear, frustration run even deeper. Picture daily life, people staring at screens after midnight, dragging themselves to bed and scrolling work emails half asleep. Commuters numb to the world, clocking in and out with nothing left inside. That's not resilience, that's burnout. And it's stretching across offices, shops, hospitals, and desks all over the UK. And what if burnout doesn't end with exhaustion? For many, it's about emotional withdrawal, a slow disconnection from every part of the job, the team, the mission, and even hope itself. And that leads into something deeper, when people care less than they used to. Here's the question quietly waiting. What if the answer isn't to quit, but to stay in silence? This is where our real story begins. Burnout is more than just tiredness. It's the turning point. It's the spark before a quiet rebellion. And Gen Z is showing us what happens when burnout goes beyond the breaking point. But before we dive into that, why is this burnout epidemic sweeping Britain's workforce? So, what made Britain's strong work ethic crumble into burnout? 3 big reasons, and each one piles on the stress. Number 1, too much work, not enough people. Post-pandemic, many companies lost staff and didn't hire back fast enough. That means fewer people are expected to do more jobs. Imagine being told to finish extra tasks every single day. When work piles up and there's no help, stress becomes the norm, not a rare event. That's a big reason burnout spreads so fast. In one survey, 72% of UK workers reported taking on extra tasks due to staff shortages. And in another survey, researchers found that for about 1 in 3 workers, just going to work is the biggest source of stress. And right behind that, the never-ending workload. That's what 35% of employees say is wearing them down. That's like running a marathon every day with no finish line in sight. Number 2, money worries that never leave you. Costs are rising. Rent, bills, and even food. Many are working unpaid hours just to keep up. But even when the clock stops, the stress doesn't. Emails, calls, and messages follow into evenings and weekends. Workers never truly switch off. Without recovery time, burnout builds like slow poison. According to Deloitte and CIPD research, 87% of employers observed leavism, staff working outside hours, and younger workers felt it more acutely. Imagine never fully switching off. Your brain never gets a break. Number 3, sense of being alone. Work isn't just a place where tasks happen. It's also where we should feel seen, but many workplaces don't catch stress early, and managers often don't know how to help. A lot of workers feel invisible, afraid to speak up, or judged for feeling tired. That breaks trust. And without caring leadership, burnout gets louder and lonelier. It's estimated that around 44% of employees feel invisible at work. They feel as if their contributions are ignored and not valued. These three problems, overwork, financial strain, and poor support, didn't happen by accident. They compounded over months and years. Each feeds the other. The result? A workforce that's tired, drained, and disconnected. Vitality found that young employees in Britain lose the equivalent of 1 full day each week due to mental health challenges. That adds up to nearly 60 lost days a year per worker under 30. A huge hit to morale and productivity. This is where burnout stops being just hard days and starts being a slow fade from work, emotionally, mentally, and sometimes spiritually. And that quiet fade makes people wonder, do we have to keep pretending everything's okay? Now let's walk into the minds of those most affected, Gen Z workers, and discover what they're doing about it. Not walking out, but pushing back, softly but powerfully. Burnout didn't just make Gen Z tired, it hit them deep. First, it made them feel things they didn't know how to name. Then it messed with their minds. And finally, it started breaking down their jobs. It started small, a bad day here, a sleepless night there. But over time, it grew. According to the Burnout Report 2025, 9 in 10 adults in the UK said they felt strong stress last year. That's already huge. But for Gen Z, the youngest group in the workforce, it felt worse. Almost 1 in 3 young workers said they felt this stress all the time. And many were new to the job world, just trying to prove themselves. But they were doing it during a cost of living crisis, with rent rising and bills piling up. While older generations had time to settle in, Gen Z jumped into a world already in chaos. Some tried to keep up, others broke down. A lot of them started using their sick days for mental health, way more than older workers did. They weren't being dramatic. The stress became real pain. Some got chronic headaches, others couldn't sleep for days. A few landed in therapy or on medical leave simply because their brains and hearts had taken too much. One worker said it felt like no one even saw her drowning until she was already gone. And here's the scary part. Most people didn't feel safe talking about it. In 2024's report on workforce burnout, about 75% of Gen Z workers said they could talk to their boss about stress. But the following year, that number dropped to 56%. That means nearly half of them stayed silent, even when they were struggling. Older workers often kept pushing through stress. They grew up with the idea that pain was part of the job, but Gen Z was raised differently. They heard your feelings matter, your mind matters. So now they're noticing when something's wrong. They see it when work crosses a line, and they're not afraid to call it out. This burnout hasn't just left Gen Z tired, it's made them question everything. Is this what work is supposed to feel like? Is it okay to feel this bad every day? They're not sure if they want to keep pushing just for a paycheck if it costs their peace. Because when the price of work is your well-being, what are you really earning? But here's where it gets really interesting. What happens when a generation stops shouting and starts silently stepping back? Burnout pushed Gen Z away from old work habits and now they're building something new, not loudly striking, but quietly stepping back. This shift is called quiet quitting, doing just the job you're paid for and nothing more. Quiet quitting isn't just about being lazy, it's about saving energy. Over time, people stop going the extra mile, simply because they no longer feel connected or cared for. Research shows that only 10% of UK workers feel engaged in their work. That means 9 in 10 are emotionally checked out. They're still at their desks, but they've mentally clocked out. That cost the UK £257 billion in lost productivity, a massive hit to the economy. Gen Z doesn't just want special hours, they want human hours. They're skipping unpaid overtime and avoiding work they're not paid for. Many call it acting your wage. Around 61% of Gen Z and millennials say they're giving only the basics, just enough to keep the job and nothing extra. The reasons? It's burnout, yes, but also broken trust. In one report, nearly half of Gen Z workers said a toxic workplace culture hurt their productivity, and they'd leave it for a better one instantaneously. They weren't thrilled by tasks. They were drained by red tape, poor leadership, and no support. Additionally, many are expecting resenteeism, a mix of resentment and presenteeism. They show up, but they're checked out emotionally, resentful of work that doesn't appreciate them. Reports show around 47% of Gen Z say they're coasting by at work, not thriving. So what happens when a generation stops pretending and begins prioritizing itself? Quiet quitting also changes workplace dynamics. Teams lose little extras, helping others beyond their duties and staying late for team spirit. That affects morale, creativity, and even client trust. Managers feel the change, but can't always name it. Work slows, not because people hate their jobs, but because they've learned to protect their minds. Still, Gen Z doesn't hate work, they just want better versions of it. Studies confirm this generation values autonomy, boundaries, purpose, not hustle for hustle's sake. They're twice as likely to leave a job if it doesn't offer flexibility or well-being support. Unlike older generations who often resign themselves to grinding through stress, Gen Z sees work as transactional. They give effort within limits. That's why quiet quitting isn't rebellion, it's a reset. For low engagement workplaces, this is a warning, not a victory. Quiet quitting signals broken communication, unmet expectations, and unsupported employees. If companies ignore it, productivity, loyalty, and retention all take a hit. Regulation changes might help, but real solutions come from listening and adapting. The quiet quitting moment is a crisis, but also an opportunity. For Gen Z, it's a soft refusal. I'm here, but I'm also drawing a line. In a way, it's their loudest statement without speaking a word. So, how can this trust be rebuilt? Can a space be created where both work gets done and employee well-being is catered to? After months or even years of pushing through burnout, blurred boundaries, and pressure from all sides, workers are asking, is this what work is supposed to feel like? The signs are everywhere. Productivity is decreasing, mental health days are up, and younger employees are quietly stepping back. The triple threat of stress, silence, and slipping motivation isn't just a Gen Z problem, it's a workplace problem. So what now? What can actually help? If we want healthier teams and stronger workplaces, we need to change how we approach work, right from the roots. Moreover, mental health needs to become more than just a poster in the hallway. That means real support, giving managers the tools to understand stress and making sure workers have access to things like therapy and mental health days that don't feel like asking for a favor. Right now, only 3 in 10 workers say they feel supported with their mental health at work. That means 70% are pushing through silently. And how long can anyone keep that up? There is also a need to make it normal to talk about stress, not awkward. Open conversations, regular check-ins, and spaces where people feel safe to say, I'm struggling, without fearing judgment. And the old idea that being seen in the office is equivalent to working hard? It's becoming outdated. Remote options, flexible shifts, even a 4-day working week. There are ways the workforce can stay engaged and productive. When the UK tested a 4-day work week, 92% of companies chose to keep it permanently. Burnout dropped. People got done more in less time. That's not laziness, it's working smarter. Another key? Helping people grow. Because nothing drains motivation faster than feeling stuck. Mentorship programs, skills training, or just having clear paths forward can give workers something real to aim for. In fact, 63% of employees say career growth is one of the main reasons they'd stay in a job. And if there's no room to grow, why stay planted? And of course, pay matters. No amount of mental health talks will help if someone's paycheck doesn't even cover the basics. Fair wages, real benefits, and proper time off aren't extras. With the cost of living soaring, many young workers aren't just stressed. They're scared. Scared of missing rent, of unexpected bills, of falling behind. If we want them to care about their work, we need to care about their livelihood. Loyalty cannot be expected when people are barely getting by. So here's the bigger picture. This isn't just a social issue, it's an economic one. Burnout leads to low output, high turnover, more sick leave, and soaring healthcare costs. Ignoring Gen Z's needs won't make them disappear, it'll just drive them out the door. But if we act now, if we create jobs that support people instead of draining them, we won't just fix a crisis, we'll build something better. For Gen Z, for the generations before them, and the ones still to come. Because maybe Gen Z isn't quitting, maybe they're showing us what work should have felt like all along. Thank you for watching, see you next time.